But because of all this secrecy, many made up their own minds a long time ago about Area 51, and that's why it may never lose its extraterrestrial excitement.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the greatest secrets and mysteries from all over the world that will likely remain secret forever.
Many of the founding fathers, especially the influential ones, people like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, were Freemasons.
Man of the Hole.
He was the last survivor of a genocide in a region of an extreme violent region.
Deep in Brazil's Amazon rainforest lived the Man of the Hole, the last member of an uncontacted indigenous tribe. His nickname came from the deep holes he dug. They were often filled with spikes, suggesting that they were for hunting or self-defense. It's believed that settlers and ranchers hired gunmen to kill the rest of his people starting in the 1970s.
The rights of indigenous people must be recognized and their land protected.
Our hole digger was the sole survivor, choosing to live in complete isolation for decades. He resisted all attempts at contact, becoming a symbol of indigenous resilience. To this day, many elements of his existence are shrouded in mystery. What was his name? What language did he speak? What was the true purpose of the holes? In August 2022, he was found dead in his hut, and as such, the answers to these queries died with him. Attila the Hun's chat with Pope Leo I.
Leo's reign took place during a period marred by numerous heresies and turmoil.
It was the year 452 CE, and the seemingly unstoppable army of Attila the Hun had advanced into Italy. Pope Leo I, desperate to protect Rome, set out for a private meeting with Attila near Mantua. Legend has it that a vision of Saints Peter and Paul armed with swords appeared there. In truth, we will never know exactly what was discussed. We do know that after this meeting, Attila spared Rome from assault.
3 years later, he confronted the Vandals in the same manner when they showed up on Rome's doorstep.
Did Leo frighten Attila with the power of religion and superstition? Or was persuasion unnecessary thanks to Attila's logistical challenges? Did he bribe the warlord with treasure? Whether it was politics, pragmatism, or fear of divine retribution, Attila retreated, and Leo gained a reputation as a persuasive leader. The paternity of Caesarion. In 47 BCE, Queen Cleopatra gave birth to a boy, Ptolemy XV. The young king was also known by another name, Caesarion. Cleopatra flaunted him as Caesar's heir, and the emperor acknowledged the boy as his own when she brought him to Rome 3 years later. After Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra fled back to Egypt with her son in tow, where he was declared co-ruler of Egypt.
Let it be known that the territories in dispute were subjugated by Julius Caesar. There can be no question that the right to rule over them is the heritage of his son. And in the name of the mighty Caesar, I grant to King Ptolemy Caesarion that right.
At the time, many Roman contemporaries cast doubt on Caesarion's true lineage. We will never know whether Caesarion was the true-born heir to Rome, or if those doubts were part of a political plot. We do know that Caesar's adopted son Octavian saw Caesarion as a threat to his claim. Octavian had his brother assassinated in 30 BCE. The Voynich Manuscript.
Dive into the past with a book that's one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries.
Imagine a book that's part botanical guide, part astrological manual, and part complete and utter mystery. The Voynich Manuscript, carbon dated to the early 15th century, is a 240-page enigma.
The images spark the imagination, but no one's sure what they mean.
It's filled with both bizarre illustrations and text in an undeciphered script. Discovered by rare book dealer Wilfred Voynich in 1912, it has since baffled cryptographers, linguists, and scholars alike. Some believe it's a medieval cipher. Others think it's an elaborate hoax. Despite numerous claims of cracking its code, the manuscript's true meaning remains elusive. Is it an ancient herbal, a secret alchemical text, or the Dungeons and Dragons manual of the Middle Ages? Until someone deciphers it, the Voynich Manuscript keeps its secrets close, inviting both fascination and frustration.
When you touch the original, it awakens so many emotions and questions. You want to know who touched it, who could have made something like this. How many people were involved in making it?
The Princes in the Tower.
Edward has 2 sons, an heir and a spare. His oldest son is immediately proclaimed King Edward V on his father's death. The bad news is that both sons are still just young boys.
2 young princes vanished without a trace, and England was never the same. In 1483, Edward V and his younger brother Richard of Shrewsbury were locked away in the Tower of London by their uncle Richard III. Officially, they were awaiting Edward's coronation. Instead, their uncle took the throne and the boys vanished from the tower without a trace.
They were held for a while in what was then called the Garden Tower, rechristened the Bloody Tower, for the dark murders believed to have taken place within its walls. Their bodies are lost to history.
Centuries later, bones were discovered in the tower. Without DNA confirmation that they belonged to the brothers, their fate remains a mystery. Recently, another clue emerged. A chain belonging to Edward V was found in the will of Lady Margaret Capel, a relative of an alleged accomplice to their murder. This discovery strengthens the theory that Richard III ordered their murders.
This is the first indication of some physical possession of the princes, which is still in circulation in London in the early part of the following century.
The Bay of Jars. In the 1980s, treasure hunter Robert Marks made a startling discovery, one that promised to upend history as we know it. He discovered Roman amphorae, or ancient jars, beneath Brazil's Guanabara Bay. This find suggested that Romans might have somehow reached South America before any other European. A Brazilian businessman, Americo Santarelli, claimed ownership of the jars. He said that in the 1960s, he had commissioned replicas of Roman amphorae and submerged them in the bay to achieve an aged, barnacle-encrusted appearance. The mystery, though, is further complicated. The jars were examined by a classics expert from MIT who confirmed their authenticity. Without permission by the government to excavate the site, we'll never know whether the Romans truly made it to Brazil. Havana syndrome.
It is a mysterious illness that's affected US diplomats worldwide, attacking the nervous system, and in some cases forcing people into early retirement.
Since 2016, US diplomats and intelligence officers from postings around the world, starting with Cuba, have reported mysterious symptoms. This combination of dizziness, headaches, and cognitive issues has since been dubbed Havana syndrome.
Soon after, diplomats and other government workers stationed around the world began experiencing similar unexplained symptoms.
The true cause remains elusive. Some experts suggest mass psychogenic illness, where stress and fear manifest as physical symptoms. Others propose environmental factors like exposure to pesticides or malfunctioning surveillance equipment. A 2022 report by the Director of National Intelligence offered mixed findings. It found that pulsed electromagnetic energy and ultrasound were plausible causes for some cases, while psychogenic factors could explain others. Despite extensive investigations, no definitive cause has been identified.
New technology is helping us more quickly and thoroughly evaluate a variety of potential causes of these incidents, and we've distributed across posts so that we can respond rapidly to new reports.
The Hapsburg napkin fold. The Hapsburg napkin fold, also known as the imperial napkin fold, is a closely guarded secret within Austrian tradition. The napkin, when complete, resembles both a bishop's hat and a fleur-de-lis. This intricate fold has been a hallmark of Austrian state banquets since the Habsburgs ruled Austria. Only 2 individuals at any given moment are entrusted with the knowledge of this folding technique. The method is passed down orally, with each custodian selecting and instructing a successor before their death. Despite public displays of the folded napkin in museums and numerous attempts to replicate it, the authentic technique remains elusive. People have attempted to replicate it, but the exact procedure is still a mystery. What happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
And jubilant Jimmy Hoffa sweeps in as new president of the Teamsters.
Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance is the mafia mystery that just won't die. On July 30th, 1975, the former Teamsters boss vanished from a Detroit parking lot. Was he meeting with mobsters? Did he live happily ever after? Definitely not.
Tracking Hoffa's downfall takes you through a web of corruption, betrayal, and in the end, murder.
Hoffa was officially declared dead in 1982, but no body was ever found. Over the years, rumors of his fate have circulated. Some claimed he was buried in one of a series of strange locations. Others say he was dissolved in acid or encased in cement. The FBI has conducted countless searches, including one as recently as 2022.
So the FBI dug in the wrong place?
They dug in the wrong place. They dug in the wrong place.
Hoffa remains missing. With his mob ties and countless enemies, it's likely we'll never know the full truth. Diego Garcia.
Take a peek inside Diego Garcia's mysterious island.
Diego Garcia, a remote island in the Indian Ocean, has a long, complicated history. Discovered by the Portuguese in 1512, it spent decades as a French leper colony and coconut plantation. Most recently, under UK control, it's been a pivotal US military base.
And is known as the footprint of freedom for its shape, regional location, and strategic importance.
Its location makes it invaluable to Middle East operations and as an alleged submarine base. Beyond its strategic value, the island is also shrouded in controversy. The native Shigoshan inhabitants were forcibly removed in the 1970s to make way for military installations.
The islanders have since sued unsuccessfully for the rights to return home.
In the last few decades, reports have surfaced alleging its use as a CIA black site for detaining and interrogating terror suspects. Access to the island is incredibly restricted, and the public will never know what truly happens there. Metro 2. You may have heard about the British shadow cabinet, but have you heard of a Russian shadow subway? Rumors have swirled for almost a century about Metro 2, a secret subway running parallel to the Moscow Metro, codenamed D6 by the KGB. This clandestine network was allegedly built during the rule of Joseph Stalin. It lacks public entrances, but could be used as a shelter in the event of an aerial assault on Moscow. In times of crisis, while panicked civilians crowd onto the public metro, government officials could easily escape the city using the trains in Metro 2, which are supposedly battery-powered. Despite widespread speculation, the Russian government has never acknowledged the system's existence, nor officially released any details of its function. The lost recipe for Greek fire. Centuries before Oppenheimer created a superweapon by splitting the atom, the Byzantine Empire ruled the Mediterranean with a superweapon of their own.
A mysterious substance that, when ignited, burns bright and hot.
Known as Greek fire, this formidable tool has somehow eluded a concrete definition, with some simply referring to it as liquid fire that could never be extinguished by water. The recipe for this weapon was held as a closely guarded secret, and with it, the Byzantium resisted Muslim conquests for centuries.
Streams of flame shoot out from Byzantine vessels, lighting the water on fire and incinerating the Arab ships.
Unfortunately, the danger of tightly held secrets is that they can easily be forgotten. By the Fourth Crusade, the Eastern Roman Empire lost the recipe and was ultimately annihilated in the subsequent centuries. Though historians and chemists have tried to recreate the recipe, they have never been successful.
There is certainly speculation as to the different recipes for Greek fire, but it would be very difficult to say what the classic Greek fire actually is.
Tesla's missing papers.
It's just amazing from a history standpoint. Tesla helped create the foundation of our electrical grid.
History buffs may know about the rivalry between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison in the nascent days of electrical power. But did you know that after his death in 1943, some of Tesla's research mysteriously disappeared? Tesla was allegedly working on particle beam weapons that, if successful, could have altered the outcome of World War II. The day after his death, his nephew, the Yugoslavian ambassador to the US, discovered that his notebook and many crucial documents were missing. As the FBI didn't trust Tesla's nephew with his sensitive research, they later confiscated all of the scientist's items.
The US government sat on Tesla's entire estate for 10 years.
Although some of Tesla's work was returned to his family years later, a significant portion of it has never been found. Oliver Cromwell's head.
Of all the bizarre and bloody ways in which English rulers have met their destiny, the strangest concerns the only British sovereign who was not a monarch.
Oliver Cromwell was a leading parliamentarian during the British Civil Wars of the 17th century, seizing control of the nation through a military coup. Cromwell ruled as Lord Protector for 5 years before dying of natural causes. Shortly after his death, the monarchy regained authority. King Charles II then ordered the exhumation of Cromwell's body so he could be posthumously executed. Cromwell's head was removed afterwards and put on display in London for at least 2 decades. Over the next 3 centuries, it passed between private collectors of creepy historical objects, occasionally giving rise to fake replicas.
The authorities were certainly aware that people's heads, traitors' heads, could become objects of veneration. In fact, Cromwell himself had authorised Charles I's head to be re-sewn and reattached to his body.
The final owner decided to secretly bury the head on the campus of Sydney's Sussex College, which Cromwell attended. Its exact location there remains unknown. Copper Scroll treasure.
When scholars finally revealed the contents of the Copper Scroll in June 1956,
It caused excitement around the globe.
In the 1940s and 50s, archaeologists found a treasure trove of ancient Jewish manuscripts in the Qumran caves of the West Bank. Collectively, they became known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of these manuscripts was different from the others, inscribed on copper plates instead of parchment and papyrus. This unique document, referred to as the Copper Scroll, not only differed in its material but also in its content. It's an ancient treasure map listing 64 locations of buried jewels and gold.
Written out in 12 columns, it's a verbal treasure map. 12 columns, over 60 plus locations.
Unfortunately, the map is outdated by about 2,000 years. Treasure hunters and archaeologists have tried to find the modern locations of these ancient sites. To this day, no treasure has ever been discovered. Letters of Last Resort. This is the stuff that spy movies are made of. Belonging to the United Kingdom, the Letters of Last Resort are exclusively written by the newly appointed Prime Minister. 4 different letters are penned, which are then given to 4 submarines equipped with destructive Trident missiles. Within the letters are instructions telling the commanding officers what to do in the event of a nuclear strike on Britain. No one but the Prime Minister knows the exact contents of the letters, as they're kept sealed until nuclear war breaks out. In the event that nuclear war doesn't break out, which thankfully it hasn't, the letters are destroyed upon the inauguration of a new PM. Taj Mahal or Taj Mahalia. In 1989, historian P.N. Oak stirred controversy with his book, Taj Mahal, The True Story. In it, Oak opposed the majority of historians and scientists who believed the structure was built in the 17th century, instead contending that it was actually constructed in 1155. Also, contrary to its designation as a tomb, Oak claimed that the building was originally a Hindu temple. According to him, Shiva worshippers had constructed it and called it Taj Mahalia. Oak even filed a petition demanding that the Taj Mahal be declared a Hindu monument, but it was dismissed by India's Supreme Court in 2000. In recent years, with the rise of online conspiracies, the theory has become a rallying cry for Hindu nationalists.
Organizations are now claiming that once you open the doors, you will find a Lord Shiva temple. In fact, most of the people have gone ahead and said that what you see behind me is not Taj Mahal, has always been Taj Mahalia.
The Coca-Cola recipe. Coca-Cola has been around since 1886, and try as desperately as they might, no one has been able to replicate its distinct taste. That's how you know you have a good beverage on your hands.
The people who handle the concentrate are as in the dark about the secret formula as anyone.
I've been working 11 years now. I don't know what's in the formula. All my job is to load it up and send it to the line and let them run it.
Inventor John S. Pemberton kept his recipe a secret and even refused to write it down for fear of people copying his success. It was finally jotted down when Ernest Woodruff purchased the company in 1919.
The first recipe called for cocaine, but over time, the narcotic ingredient was removed, but not the secrecy.
The physical recipe then made the rounds between New York's Guarantee Bank, Atlanta's Trust Company Bank, and finally the world of Coca-Cola, which is where it resides today. It is currently housed in the so-called Vault of the Secret Formula, and it remains a very closely guarded trade secret.
At least once a year, somebody show up and say, I have the original formula for Coca-Cola, how much will you pay me for it? Well, we don't need to pay them anything for it because we have the only real one.
The world's greatest card trick. David Berglas was a mentalist and magician who gained notoriety in the 1950s, particularly for his iconic trick known as the Berglas effect.
This particular card effect is a version of a classic plot in magic called any card at any number.
For this deceptively simple feat, Berglas would produce a seemingly ordinary deck and ask a spectator to name any playing card. Another person would then pick a random number from 1 to 52. By the time the cards were dealt one by one, the specified card would be found at the specified position. It's a trick that stumped and astounded other magicians for years,
which made him a legend amongst magicians and a career that spanned over 6 decades.
However, Berglas maintained that it was unteachable, and he took the secret to his grave in 2023. This covert technique is now widely considered the holy grail of card magic. The origins of HIV/AIDS.
Some nurses feared this unknown, unnamed disease so much they wouldn't even go near someone with AIDS. The fear was pervasive.
While HIV is largely linked to the 1980s, it remains a global public health issue. In 2020 alone, it was estimated that nearly 40 million people were living with the disease.
70% live in sub-Saharan Africa. But antiretroviral drugs offer hope. New infections are down by over a third. Mother-to-child transmission has more than halved, and globally, there's been a 35% decrease in deaths.
But regardless of its prevalence and very public history, there is still a lot about the retrovirus we don't know.
Even those of us who were in it from day one were shocked by the enormity of the problem.
For example, humanity is still mostly unsure of where it came from. The leading theory is that African hunters in the early 20th century killed and ate chimpanzees infected with SIV, the S standing for simian, which then mutated into HIV in the human body. However, this information is typically populated with words like probably and likely, indicating that the origins of HIV are not definitively known, even to this day. The Farmer's Almanac formula.
Wow, listen to this. We are in for a brutal winter. That's according to the Farmer's Almanac.
Farmer's Almanac has been annually published since 1818, so it's obviously doing something right. The Almanac makes long-term weather predictions in North America, and various scientific studies have proven a roughly 50% rate of accuracy.
So basically take this with a grain of salt.
Not bad, considering the predictions come up to 2 years in advance, and it seems like the local weather station doesn't even know if it'll rain tomorrow.
And according to their website, they use an exclusive mathematical and astronomical formula that relies on sunspot activity, tidal action, planetary position, and many other factors.
Weirdly, almost nothing is known about the making of the almanac. The forecaster is kept secret, and the almanac itself has never revealed how it makes its predictions. The formula is reportedly kept inside an impenetrable box, and the world is left wondering just how the heck these gods can so accurately predict the weather.
Oh, it's kind of like the Coca-Cola recipe.
The Roanoke colony. The first English attempt to colonize the New World took place on the island of Roanoke in 1585. It failed due to a lack of food and clashes with indigenous peoples. 2 years later, John White made another effort, establishing a larger settlement. White left his settlers there, hoping to come back with supplies the following year, but his return was delayed until 1590.
But Governor White doesn't return to his family. He returns to a mystery.
Upon arriving on the supply ship, White found the settlement completely deserted. The only clue as to the whereabouts of his people was a strange carving on a post that read Croatoan. Over 100 men, women, and children had disappeared without a trace.
There's no evidence that there was any kind of battle. There's no evidence of bones or bodies that might indicate an altercation between the colonists and the indigenous people.
While theories of their fate abound, none has ever been proven. Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a compound sitting on a massive 2,700-acre slice of California redwood country. It's a gentleman's club of sorts, catering to the conservative elites of American society. Its membership includes almost every Republican president since Calvin Coolidge, other politicians, as well as some of the wealthiest business leaders in modern history. For over 150 years, elites have flocked to Bohemian Grove on semi-secret retreats, which typically take place in mid-July every year for about 2 weeks. Few know what they do there, though rumors of their Bacchanalia-esque revelries abound. What we do know is that there is a reasonable likelihood that many of the world's historical events may have been shaped within the confines of the Bohemian Grove. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
A garden known throughout the world for its beauty, a name now synonymous with the disappeared riches of an ancient kingdom.
Today, all but one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world have been lost to time. Among those that no longer exist, one has continued to spark controversy. Historians and archaeologists have long endeavored to find proof that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon actually existed. A number of contemporary accounts described a massive collection of lush plants in the center of the city. It appeared, they said, as if there were a green mountain in the center of Sennacherib's palace. No physical evidence has ever been found, whether swallowed by the Euphrates or a myth meant to spread Babylonian glory.
We do have some quite good ground sensing equipment that might just help, but people will rob stones away and put them in their houses. So anything that was stone there has been robbed long ago.
The truth of the Hanging Gardens is still a mystery. The Man in the Iron Mask.
Sorry you've never seen me before. I must shock you.
The story of the man in the iron mask has been a staple of French culture since Dumas published his novel in 1850. While he theorized that the mysterious prisoner was in fact the identical twin of Louis XIV, the truth remains a mystery. What we do know is that at the turn of the 17th century, there was a masked political prisoner. Contrary to fiction, his mask wasn't iron, but rather made of black velvet. Rumors swirled about his identity. Voltaire believed that he was a secret royal relative, held captive to keep Louis's crown safe. Others claimed that he was the son of Oliver Cromwell. Whomever he was, the masked French prisoner's true identity is likely to remain a secret forever.
I've waited 6 years to ask this question. Why was this done to me?
Genghis Khan's tomb. Living in the mid-12th century to the early 13th, Genghis Khan is the infamous instigator of the Mongol Empire, which was the largest connective empire in history.
He rose from abject poverty to rule most of the known world. It is claimed that 1 in every 200 men alive today is descended from him.
After taking over much of the known world, Khan died under unknown circumstances and was returned to his home country of Mongolia. Legend has it that the funeral procession killed anyone who witnessed it in order to keep his final resting place a secret. If that's true, it certainly worked, because no one today has any idea of where Genghis Khan is buried.
The Mongolian belief is that if you disturb the tomb of Genghis Khan, the reason why that area was so forbidden is because if you disturb this tomb, that you might cause this curse that'll end the world, right?
Modern scholars believe his tomb is somewhere around the Burkhan Khaldun mountain, but research in the area is difficult owing to restrictions imposed by the Mongolian government.
Finding the tomb of Genghis Khan would be the greatest archaeological discoveries of our generation.
The potential for riches in Genghis Khan's tomb are extraordinary. You think of it, it's the world's largest land empire. The riches that must have been plundered and the riches that might be inside this tomb boggle the mind.
The lost years of Jesus Christ. Many scholars and historians agree that Jesus Christ was a real person and that he was born sometime around 4 BC. However, a large chunk of his historical life remains unaccounted for, as no one knows what he was doing between the ages of 12 and 29.
During all this time, there is but one story in the Gospels. It describes Jesus as a precocious 12-year-old, discussing the Hebrew Bible with rabbis in Jerusalem.
These are referred to by a variety of names, including his silent years. Of course, there are many theories. Some believe he was in Britain, others India.
There are said to be records originally written in India in the ancient Pali language and later translated into Tibetan, dealing with the life of an extraordinary saint known to the Buddhists as Isa. The life story of Saint Isa closely resembles the life of Jesus Christ.
But the leading theory is that he was in Galilee, a region of both Israel and Lebanon, working as a carpenter under the tutelage of his father Joseph.
Once in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus' critics in his hometown ask, "Is not this the carpenter?" And then in the parallel text in Matthew, they ask, "Is not this the carpenter's son?"
Following Jesus' unknown excursions, he was baptized in Al-Makdas around 28 AD, and it is here that his world-changing ministry began. The USA's missile submarines. There's something about submarines and secrecy. The United States owns various missile submarines that are guided by nuclear power, including the USS Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and Georgia.
Still very secret, well guarded. It's dark, and it's massive. It's as long as the Washington Monument is high, nearly the length of 2 football fields. The sail, as it's called, stretches high into the air.
These are known as SSGNs. The missiles on board these subs have the potential to cause great destruction, but their whereabouts and activities are generally unknown.
Unlike a surface ship that someone can see or a satellite they know when they cover, they don't know we're here.
However, they literally surface from time to time. For example, Michigan appeared in South Korea in 2017, and Florida took part in Operation Odyssey Dawn in Libya.
During the Cold War, the USS Florida prowled the oceans, equipped with Trident nuclear missiles, ready to carry out an attack at a moment's notice.
On June 28, 2010, a rare event occurred which saw 3 of 4 surfacing at once in response to Chinese missile tests. These 4 subs have been SSGN since the 2000s, but most of their actions and locations have remained a secret.
We won't go any further, but you're literally standing 10 to 20 feet from an operational nuclear reactor right now.
Freemasons.
Many of the founding fathers, especially the influential ones, people like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, were Freemasons.
For 300 years, conspiracy theories have swirled around the Freemasons. Officially founded in 1717, many believe to this day that the not-so-secret secret society has been operating behind the scenes for centuries. The truth is likely far less sinister. Publicly, they advertise themselves as a group of civic-minded men, looking to propagate charity, kindness, and stability throughout the world.
Freemasonry brings together people of diverse backgrounds, freedom from ignorance, freedom from superstition, freedom from intolerance, freedom from extremism.
Women are not allowed, and members must have some kind of belief in a supreme being. They are famous for secret rituals, handshakes, and lodges. Regular civilians, driven by curiosity, have long sought to uncover their secrets, fueled by rumors that have linked them to everything from the New World Order to aliens. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Area 51.
Take my word for it. There's no Area 51. There's no recovered spaceship.
Excuse me, Mr. President. That's not entirely accurate.
When it comes to highly classified areas, it doesn't get more famous than Area 51. Found in the Nevada desert, Area 51 is a top-secret military facility with ties to cutting-edge technology.
The military base 80 miles from Las Vegas has become infamous for conspiracy theories about little green men.
They certainly appear to still be covering up what exactly goes on at Area 51.
The place is so secretive that it wasn't officially unveiled by the CIA until 2013, even though it was very obvious that something was in the desert. Area 51 is officially known as a military training facility and supposedly a testing ground for both experimental aircraft and high-tech weaponry.
The Area 51 designation is said to come from Atomic Energy Commission designation maps. In the 1930s, it was a wildlife reservation under the Department of the Interior, but the War Department then took it over in 1942 during World War II.
Owing to its secretive nature, both trespassing and flying over the site are grossly prohibited and dangerously enforced. Naturally, this has given rise to a swath of conspiracy theories. Are aliens inside Area 51? Perhaps we'll never know.
But because of all this secrecy, many made up their own minds a long time ago about Area 51, and that's why it may never lose its extraterrestrial excitement.
Are you a super sleuth with knowledge of some of the world's greatest untold secrets? Spill the beans in the comments below.
What happened to that colony is one of the big unanswered questions of American history.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.